Hunter. So, welcome to Junkcast. We're threat side. Today we will be talking about the threat side of the Arma 2020 battle. And for those who may not know what Arma is or don't know the full extent of it, Arma's when six defender artists collaborate to take down the threats. One or two artists. This time it is Shen and Crow, and the threat's generally a monster or villain that just wants to fuck up Void. And if the threat loses, those characters die. If the defenders lose, Void's just fucked for quite a while. And this threat is also special because normally threat characters are made specifically for Arma. However, both Gray and Hunter, the two characters who are the threat this time, are pre-existing characters who have had a history on Void and have decided it should go to hell now. So that is what Arma is for those who are not in the know about it. It's been going on for Void since I don't know exactly when, but it's one of the biggest events that goes on Void, and it's one of the rare ones, and also the one where we choose the best of the best artists to be the threats and the best to save Void from them. And before we start with the interview of Shen and Crow, another announcement is we're also going to start a Voider of the Month. And what that is the Voider of the Month is going to be a new type of feature system that will be giving a member in the community who's active and comment the most, like a little award, Voider of the Month. And it'll be chosen by the staff members of Void. We'll be giving the first award at the end of October. So we just wanted to announce that now. We'll be releasing more of the details, I think, at the next staff AMA. But we just wanted to give a little announcement of that now.
Yeah, there'll be more details.
Okay, now on to the actual. Yep. Yeah. We'll be doing more details, like Joel said, and explaining that in more detail, but just wanted to announce it now so people are in the know. So let's start with interviewing the threats, which are Shen and Crow. So I'll just start with the simplest question. What was your schedules like, and how did you guys break down the work?
Oh, God.
What the hell is a schedule?
Yeah, I really, really wish that our answer for you was going to be that we were very cool and very scheduled and, thoroughly experienced comic makers when it came to schedule, and that would be a complete lie.
Just a lot of screaming and flailing our arms.
What did your process look like there?
The process was honestly a bit of a mad dash to the finish. This was a really big comic, which was not helped by the fact that I've always been really terrible about brevity in comics. In this particular case, the way that we broke down the work was I wrote a needlessly long general outline of how everything was going to go, and then threw it at Shen and said, "Please make this work."
I made it into a script.
Yeah, Shen did an amazing job translating my super dense paragraphs into a workable script, and from there, I thumbnailed and penciled, Shen inked and flatted, and then I did shading and final effects.
Except there are a couple pages where she did flats and shading, or I did flats and shading, because we were running out of time.
Yeah, and then, one of the things about it that, originally, if this was a shorter comic, and what we've done in the past is we would try and go nicely where, everything gets thumbnailed first, everything gets sketched, going through the process step by step. Obviously, since this was such a huge comic to be doing, even in a very, very generous amount of time compared to a usual Void battle, that was not the case. Normally what we were doing once we had the script down is I would be thumbing and sketching pages in batches of about 5 or so and sending them to Shen. Generally, the sort of hope that we had was that we could keep moving in a way where both of us would always have something to be working on. when we were doing our little prelude comic to Armageddon to help introduce Hunter and Gray as threats, we weren't quite as efficient because we hadn't worked together in a while, so we weren't as used to syncing up. And that's something that we really wanted to avoid just because of how tight the time constraints were going to be on this.
Okay,
So the goal was very much constant feedback so that there's always stuff that we could both be doing to be as efficient as possible.
Because of that, the very last page was not penciled until the very last week.
See, you say penciled. The final page wasn't thumbnailed.
Oh my god,
or
was that
anything
far
until-
back?
Yeah, I think that was last Friday. So we did that page in like the last 4 days.
A lot of screaming,
because-
we need our grand finale!
Yeah.
So
what
when you
do
guys,
about your process?
oh, what was
I'm
the
sorry, say
question?
that one
you
more
were-
time.
What would you have changed about your process? Like if you got a second chance, if you had to like do it over, what would you have changed?
Maybe we would have actually made a schedule.
I think that if we could go back and change something, I think we would have tried probably front loading more of the work. Just because it's 2020 and everything has been going on for everybody all the time, everywhere. So we had more stuff come up earlier on in the battle that meant that while we were still putting in like a very, very large amount of time, even early on, that got pushed really to the extreme in the last week or two. So I think ideally it would have been nice to have put in those really crazy, the days where it was more like 20 hours of work a day would have been better to do earlier so we had more time to choose how we wanted to distribute it rather than getting jammed up at the end.
Yeah, there were some days where I inked like 1 page a day and went, I got plenty of time. I would not have done that again. Also, I would have liked another pass at the script. There's some problems that I see only when it's finished, and I'm like, I could have done something about that earlier.
Yeah, if I could have one wish list for more time to do something, it would have been nice to get some more time to do more passes on the script, and it would have been really nice if I'd been able to do all the thumbs in one go before starting to sketch and everything. But because there were so many, I really wanted to start rolling and seeing what was going to work and what wasn't going to work with regards to the layouts I was doing. Early on, I'm used to doing a much more standard proportion page, just because, I don't know, that's what I like, but I also have a big weakness with my stuff where I tend to do panels that are much too large. So if you look at a lot of my earlier comics, I'll have pages where there may only be like 3 or 4 panels a page, and that definitely wasn't going to work for something where we had so much to get done. So it would have been nice figuring out earlier on just how to best distribute what's happening on each page, even though I'm fairly happy with it as a whole.
Also, you mentioned or when you were splitting up the thing, you were breaking it like 5 pages at a time. Were you doing this in like chronological order, or were you just like, did you have a specific plan? Was it just like chronological, or did you choose like skip around on different pages, like working on the middle and like coloring that before like the start or something like that?
With regards to inking and flatting, Shen had a bit more freedom, but I went start to finish for the most part when it came to thumbnailing and sketching, just because it helped me get a sense of about where I was going to be on page count. I was a little worried that if I jumped around too much and did the stuff that I really wanted to do, it was going to end up with me realizing, oh no, this is going to be 20 pages longer than I anticipated, which
I would
obviously
take
would
an-
have been kind of disastrous.
I would just take an entire scene and go back and forth inking different panels from that. Like, I'm bored of this page now, I'm going to go to that page. So I would have 3 pages that were not done, and then all of a sudden 3 pages that were totally done, and I just send them off.
Yeah, one thing that did work out nicely about how many pages I was typically doing at a time is that about 5 pages or so, I want to say, did become the average length for a scene. So it kind of broke itself down by that. But yeah, it was start to finish on that part. The rest of it was just sort of it happened when it happened.
Snagger,
but-
mute your mic. There we go. Okay, that's cool to know. And so, not for a workload question, but when the Defenders were announced, what were your reactions to the Defenders?
Excited screaming.
Screaming, yeah.
About Shen.
We were like, I think she was asleep, and I'm just waking her up by spamming her DMs. Wake up! You gotta look and see who we're fighting.
Yeah, we got incredibly lucky, I think, with regards to this Arma, that I honestly think I would have been pretty thrilled to fight just about anyone on the sign-up list. I had a ton of fun drawing everyone as cameos, but Void has such an interesting, it's a really eclectic list of people when you look at it. Like, I try and describe Void to people who aren't on Void, and I'm like, yeah, so we're fighting a necromancer, and we're fighting a sexy psychic kind of soup, and we're fighting
Cartoon dog.
I don't know how to describe Miller.
And mom is sexy.
We were really happy. It was really exciting because we looked at the Defender lineup and went, oh, excellent. I want to draw everybody here, so this works out kind of awesome.
I was a little concerned at first about Chica because I had no idea what to do with her, but then once we got started, we're like, oh no, I really love Chica.
Chica actually worked out really well. I thought she was going to be the hardest to draw for me, and it turned out that she actually was like, I don't know, she was really fun to draw. The hardest thing to draw was Kubo's stupid jacket. Like, I love you, Kubo, but that jacket makes me want to beat
Fuck that jacket. I was trying to ink it too. Also, Klep's bag. Fuck that bag.
Hey, I like Klep's bag. Klep is a good boy and you quiet.
I love Klep, but inking that bag was a pain in the ass. Because you went and did all the details. I would have made it like a duffel bag.
It is, listen, it's a good bag for a good boy.
He is a good boy. I mean, he's not, but I love him anyway.
Oh my goodness. My stupid computer is still updating. Shen, you don't happen to have the link to the sketch pages or any of the sketch pages that you could show in chat, do you?
What sketch page?
My pencils, you dork.
Yeah, let me find some.
Or just if you can pull them from your files or anything, it just might be kind of interesting showing those. If
you have any,
prepared a nice start to finish breakdown of what a page looked like in every phase, but now my
that'd be
computer
cool.
hates me, so.
But yeah, if you guys have any behind the scenes stuff you want to share into the Void lecture note chat, that'd be it'd be super cool because I know you guys were posting some of that in the Arma Hype thread, but Arma Hype has been going by also super duper fast. So if you have any
I'll real quick post the dumb ones that I made that were like pieces of the script versus the final.
Oh god.
Because those were fun. It's like, here's what I wrote in the script and here's how it came out. Because a lot of our best shit posts came from the script.
Yeah, well, that's because somebody doesn't exactly write a serious script.
Yeah, and then you I literally wrote that Miller was wearing clothes, and you said, nah, fuck that.
Excuse me, I'll have you know that you wrote Miller shows up. I wrote, no, he's going to be wearing clothes, and then I...
No, I'm the one who wrote it. So. You can look, I got it right here. I uploaded it into the chat.
Oh my god. Well, in theory, at some point, Miller was going to be wearing more clothing, and then I'll have you know that Shen was not the one who opted to make him basically shirtless the entire fight. That is my sin,
the penciler.
So... Sorry. Miller I'm not
sad.
Probably Miller was also if we're setting aside Kubo's jacket, for whatever reason he's the hardest to draw. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because he's unreasonably attractive, even though all of the defenders were unreasonably attractive for some reason. Thank you for that, staff, for picking.
Oh, that was fun. We enjoyed that.
He's really hard to draw on model for me. I don't know why.
I just like fill tool. Bam, done.
Yes, mine's absolutely sexy psychic suit, PETA.
What about Klep?
Klep is best
Klep
boy.
Is too pure for me to call him sexy. I'm gonna go with that.
The most pure corrupt boy.
He's I love him. He deserves the world, and he will probably steal it. So
he will steal the world, and we'll let him have it because we adore him. Sorry, we didn't give him a hat. It was really hard to draw. Circles are easier.
So, what is some advice you could give to other people when they're the threats, or just with these big ass fucking projects? What is some advice you could give to other people for projects like this, or being the threat?
Don't. No, if you could be a defender, be a defender. That's fun. I remember that. That was awesome. Being the threat is really, really hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress. And there's only 2 of us versus 6 of them. So nobody understands how come our story isn't as rich as their story. But I am not ungrateful. I had a great time.
I think if I had any advice for potential threats, it's first and foremost just really structure your time.
God,
I
yes.
counted up my time investment in this comic, and I took one day off, I think, in week 2. Every other day was I'm unfortunately just got back to work because of coronavirus, but I was off for this battle, and I think the shortest days I averaged about 7 hours in, and by the end I was sleeping 4 hours a night. So if you can possibly avoid that, avoid that. Um, Try and just balance things out, make sure you're in really good communication with your partner. If your partner has started day drinking,
Shut
tell
up!
her to cut it out.
Only sometimes.
Yeah, that was mostly because of Oni.
Oh, guys, fucking. We had an
If you have
emergency
a cat,
then.
yeah. And I think one thing that I guess isn't as directly related, but I would say is really, really important is I know that on Void we have a huge range of everyone from I know we've had some people who started out in high school, we have people who are adults, we have people who are in college. If you are living with someone, especially someone who doesn't do comics, it is really, really a blessing for both me and Shen that we had super, super understanding. Shen's husband, my partner, we were really lucky that they were
Yeah.
super supportive and willing to put up with us just losing our minds for 6 weeks. My boyfriend in particular said, "Please God, never do this again." But
Yeah. Matt was very patient with me.
just be very grateful to the patience and the support of the people around you and the people on Void who are making hype and keeping you excited in the middle of this giant slog. Being an artist has the potential, I think, to be really, really lonely, especially during something like this. So, just appreciate the support structures you have and really try to be as healthy with your process as you possibly can because it'll make a world of difference.
Okay, and one final question for you both. What are if you win or just in general, what are your plans for Hunter and Gray or just after Arma?
Well,
Well,
I'm
I feel
fucking
like-
dead.
Yeah, I feel like we know what's
So-
gonna happen with Hunter.
Yeah,
Even if we win, she was like, "Well, he's dead, so whatever." We went into this with absolutely zero expectation of actually winning because we're the threat, and the threat doesn't win. We're not going to make it easy for the defenders. Oh God, no! We're going to make them sweat. But if we die, we die. That's fine. If we actually win, I have literally no idea what to do with Gray after that. I'm trying not to think
draw
about
that
it.
dress for the rest of time.
Fucking draw that. We made it really complicated, assuming I would never have to draw it again.
Oh, also, I'm super, super both envious and intimidated and impressed by the Defenders and all their beautiful concept art, which you will see on their upcoming version of the Junkcast. Gray's
art
insane,
is so beautiful.
I had to panel it out dress was also designed on Friday, so plan is good. With regards to future plans, well, I'm dead. Hunter's dead. Based on my story canon, this was an annihilation match for him, so there will be no rezzing, there will be none of that. He's a character of mine off site of Void, so I'll still be doing things with him, but he will not be making a return to the site.
We may or may not. We have not decided if we're going to do a epilogue, like obituary BB, if the Defenders win. Sort of something we're considering.
I am because I'm sad.
Oh, okay. So that's not a maybe. If Defenders win, there will be one more.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he was going to be dead either way. So for me, it's just sort of sad because I like Hunter and I liked interacting with people on Void with him because I don't know. I'm really fond of the relationships that he develops with people, and it's sad to be sort of saying goodbye to those. But
yeah, I'm gonna miss Gray. She was my first character on Void. She is 8 years old, and She had a lot more that she could have done, but after a while, I was like, I don't really have any more stories for her, so she may as well die. I've been planning on deathmatching her all along, so why not go out with the biggest pop possible?
Well,
Yeah,
thank
when I
you.
first met Shen, first met Gray, she was like, "Yeah, so now that I've hooked this character up with your character, I just want to let you know that I've been planning on deathmatching her for like forever." And I'm like, "Nice, that's good to know."
Let's get married.
Well-
I'm gonna die, by the way.
Thank you guys for the interview. It was nice hearing about your perspective, being the threat. So thank you guys for joining us. And now we're gonna give our own like crits on this.
Okay.
Okay. Duel's having some issues. Cozy
Yeah.
Cozy
we
was
just wanted
also
to say
go
we just
ahead.
wanted to say a final thank you so much to everybody. It was a little insane, but a ton of
Yes.
fun. And we're really
One
honored
final
that
thank
you had
you.
us as your threat. So thank you.
Thank you for letting us be the threat. It's a huge honor, and I am very excited to be in like the annals of Void history. And thank you very much to Defenders for having
Oh my
badass
God, yes.
characters and really giving it your all against us. We love you. We love
The
Void.
Defender comic is amazing. Obviously, I'm assuming if you're in here, you've probably read them both, but if not, it's really something. So you should go check it out. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you for joining us on the Junkcast, and thank you for the fucking amazing. Both sides were amazing. And before, just straight up before any crits, like on either side, I just want to like give my appreciation to these comics. Like both the Threat and Defender, although we aren't talking about the Defender one today, just the Threat one. I feel like they're like professional level stuff. Like in the time that they were given, both sides have done amazing work that you could see published in like comics and is like better. Well, yeah, probably better than some like published stuff. But that's honestly not saying too much. But
Miller's Awesome Comics 2020.
yeah. Crow, you're echoing a little bit. So if you could mute your mic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just wanted to say that that like little upfront before we like talk about crits and Cozy, assuming their internet actually does get back on, will also be joining us for crits. Duel, did you want to start with your crits first?
You can start with your crits.
Okay, I'll start with my like. It's mostly just a lot of different things that like really I fucking enjoyed about this comic. Like I really like both ones. I personally like the threat side a little bit more, and I'll just start. So the one weak thing, this was like a thing about both sides is like the start was a little weak on both sides, but for different reasons. And this one, like, there wasn't too much of an establishing shot for like the characters were just there. Specifically, like Ma and Chica were just like there driving together through the hell. And when they were like went to different scenes, there wasn't any big establishing shots. However, for the most part, the way you guys use the colors in it to just change the scenes like that just made it work overall, and I wasn't really perturbed by much of that. By the lack of too many establishing shots. I just really enjoyed that aspect. And one technical aspect that I fucking love in this comic, and that is the noses. The way you did human noses on the side, the specifically the line for like the nostril and the little part above the nose, it's so good because it is such a simple line that indicates the different planes of the nose. Like, a lot of simplified nose styles don't really indicate that plane that well. And I just want to give them some appreciation for those noses. And well, the thing is, even then, like, with your style of nose and with that style of nose, like, I'm legit, I've legit have a little thing of studying the noses on the comic. You can do so much, like, with the very different styles of the noses. Like, you can make a nose like have two lines to make it like a little crooked, and then you can change the size of the nostril to indicate different types of noses. And yeah, the nose is very important, and most styles just go for a simple one line and maybe a bit of the nostril. But the way Crow like penciled out all the noses, it's so good at just indicating more of the planes of the nose without being all that much more complicated. I just really want to talk about that technical aspect because it's a super subtle one, but super important that definitely deserves some attention. And so that's the main art thing. Well, also the colors were good. The colors were really good. Another thing is the pages with the mindscape. I love that stuff, and I always love experimental like pages. Like the pages where it goes to the horizontal. Yeah, horizontal is the right word. Okay, so you can speak up about your own thing as well.
All right, so yeah, sort of like what Art's touched upon. The colors, I think, are my favorite part of this comic. You guys use the colors really well to not only like separate scenes but create mood, and like the compositions are great. Like I feel like this was a problem I had with the collab that people did that we talked about last time. And I think this is a good lesson for those people to look at this comic and see the use of some of the flats, or even some of the more complicated textures, and the way you just use complementary colors to like separate background, foreground, middle ground. Like you guys change up the color palettes a lot, but it all works very well and very uniformly. I really enjoy the color work in definitely in the comic. I also like super enjoyed how well you wrote all the characters. Like there were moments when I actually forgot that I was reading the Thread comic and I thought I was on the Defender one, because you did so well with like following the characters and like following their ties. Though I was super surprised by Lilyfeather. I was like, oh, she's getting a whole thing here too, but she's dead now. And now I'm kind of wondering, and then I was sort of wondering, like, wait, wasn't she supposed to be a princess of hell? What happened to that story? Like, she just ended up dead. I don't know if that's canonical now, even if you lose or not. If Lilyfeather will continue, I hope she's not dead. But you know, poor Lilyfeather, rest in peace.
Or pieces. So she got fucked up in that, and that twist was really surprising. I think between the two comics, that was the most surprising. There were a lot of twists on both sides, but that was the most surprising twist to me, at least.
Another thing is the story feels like a lot more personal than the Defender side. It's interesting when you compare the two. I mean, we'll talk about the Defender side next time, but this comic has a way more personal feel between these characters, which is interesting to note. But part of that, I think, is also sort of like, as Arts was saying, the lack of sort of establishing shots makes it feel a little too up close and claustrophobic at times. Like, you guys have great composition and flow on your pages, but everything is always like so up close. There's just so much going on that's like way too up close that you never pull back. And that's something that, you know, I know the difference is that they had 6 people, you had to, like, that's the Threat versus the Defender. But it's interesting to note. I also
No, I'm just wondering, because it's like, well, I'll check in on Cozy to see where she is, because apparently her internet might be better at this point. I'll check in. See if she's joining us soon.
Sure. It's also interesting to me to note the mental parts. So there's a part I noticed where, you know, early on when you do the Miller thing, you are adding in different parts from old comics, and then when we have Hunter and Gray in their minds together, you guys definitely had a lot of fun drawing new sexy scenes. Definitely noticed that. That's definitely like up your alley.
Speaking of the sexy scenes, Shen has Shen's reaction in the chat. But Shen is one writer, like, I can't think of many writers, but Shen's one of the writers who can just weave smut and just straight up sexy stuff into a normal into like a comic and have it actually mean something. Have it like mean something to the story and not just be random sex, which is quite an achievement.
Also, before when we were asking like what would happen to the characters afterwards, it's interesting. Again, this is like you had no way of knowing, but so where Gray's story ends here, in the Defender side, it continues. Like she ascends, she gets the golden lines or whatever. What's kind of funny is that the Defenders also had that like design. Did you guys like plan that both sides were gonna have like golden markings on Gray? Because it was interesting. You both sides did that. Both sides did. Gray ascends and becomes way more powerful. But yours just kind of like ends with that, and theirs continues definitely. It's interesting to note the coincidences because I feel like the main difference between the threat and the Defender side, like, really comes down to, does Hunter really care that Miller and Gray were like hooking up? Because in your side, he's like, I already knew about that. Whatever, I don't care. And in the Defender side, he's like, oh no, what? So I thought that was an interesting parallel, and I feel like if this were like a choose your own adventure, that's the point where it diverges.
Oh no.
Does Hunter care or
Because
not?
it's not detecting my mic.
No, we
Oh,
hear
look
you.
who it
We
is.
detect you, Cozy.
Oh, yay! Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry,
okay.
continue. That's my bad.
So our third collaborator shows up. The third junkie.
Hello, fellow junkies. I love that. We're using that.
Okay, I guess that's why I'm using Mason as an icon. It's fitting.
And I have no doubt that your hosting was splendiferous, Arts. Thank you so much.
And Shen and Crow are great to interview.
Yay! I'm so glad this is being recorded. I can't wait to hear it. But feel free to finish your thoughts, Duel. I'm going to pull up my notes.
Alrighty, we'll wait for Cozy to pull up her notes.
Oh, did you have any last thoughts?
Not much else I can think of. The only thing is, and I'm sure Shen, you've heard this like a million times. I feel that you're still inconsistent with your head shapes. Like you don't give like heads always enough room, and it's still like a weakness of yours. But I feel like that's everybody. Everybody has anatomy issues, and like everybody else on the site, keep working on anatomy.
Anatomy's hard.
Mood.
Okay. So I have no doubt that I'll probably be reiterating things that I was not able to hear, so apologies. But these are my thoughts. I want to start with the successes because I love the illustrator quality of the threat side. It was the gold leaf, and I'm sure you guys have mentioned this already, but the whole mind conversation with Ma and how the style changed and how they decided to go with like white inks to kind of, I don't know, allude to something not visceral but more psychic. I just thought it was a really great interpretation. I just thought, yes, it is fancy. That's the word. That, and I think that you guys were strongest with your dialogue. There were some really great conversations had. I think the one that stuck out to me, which was really an unexpected one, was the conversation between Klep and Chica in the backpack, where she's, raging and going, we're going to win, we're going to make this. And you know that they're going to fail. And you know that, Gray has the backpack in hand. And as a reader, you're like, oh no, she's trying so hard. It made that loss that much harder to watch. And the fact that we didn't see the body after the fact leaves me hopeful, but my hope springs eternal. And I just, it's funny because and this is just insider info, which I don't know if it's been mentioned or not, but Shen imparted to me that they were like, oh, Chica, I have no idea what to do with this character, but I really thought that you really succeeded with the character, not only making me care for her, but making her compelling on your side. Like when I hear, I don't know what to do with this character, I would assume that it would just be, this character's on the side and I don't know what to do with him. But I think that you really infused them in the storyline really well. And I think I don't know if we've announced that we'll be doing a Defender Junkcast later, so I'll touch on it
Yes.
more there. But guys are so
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, we announced it. We didn't. We don't have a time yet, but we're gonna do a Defender side because both comics are so good that they deserve their own.
Yes, TBD. But I digress. I like the fact that on the threat side, Chica actually came across kind of toony, which I feel that was kind of subdued on both sides. Like I feel that there was so much more that could have been done with her, and I don't know. I got a bias. It's no secret that I'm into tunes. But the line where she's like, "Yeah, I know what
Sure.
this backpack's about. I know what Hammer Space is." I was like, "Yes, thank you. Of course she would. It's so great." Let me see. I think another success was Hunter in setting up the sort of foundation for enabling Gray and just being able to have a window towards healthy versus unhealthy relationships and how he kind of encouraged her instability by being neutral, which raises the question, does that make him a bad guy or a tortured guy? I like the fact that at least for me, you didn't really at least for me, I didn't read the whole thing and go, this is what he is, and it's set in stone, it's not going to change. Like, as I read the comic, it changed consistently from like, oh, he's a bad guy. Oh, he's just making poor decisions. Or, I don't really know what to think about him. And I kind of like that because that shows, at least for me, a strength in storytelling and dialogue, where you can't really be like, well, that's all he is. And I think another success was with Gray, and kind of the mind conversation was just my favorite part, where Ma kind of lays it into her and says, like, you do this for the attention. And she's like, ah, snap. Which kind of leads me to sort of what I think were the shortcomings, in which you set up this great sort of come to Jesus moment where Ma essentially tells her like it is. And then at the end, it just feels like it falls flat. It's like, well, you do this for the attention. This is what you crave, and this is what you're like, slapping your veins for to get a hit of. But then at the end, she just kind of goes like, well, I'm happy to give that up. Miller, forget about me. City, forget about me. Leaving the entire city of Void in ruins, but forget about me. And I didn't get that. I was like, I think one of the strengths of the threat side is that we got to see the repercussions of everybody's choices. But with Gray, you see sort of like, yes, she lost Hunter, but was that really truly a loss if it was to her benefit? Because he kind of souped her up. And instead of grieving, spent that time with Miller. And then floated off from like the ruins of the city that she made without any repercussions. I feel that like I wanted more. I was like, oh, it ended so fast. And if she had turned a new leaf, and if there was a new realization and motivation and goal for her, I guess I didn't really feel the weight of it, and I wish there would have been like an extra page, which, talk about me being a viewer being graded. You need a dozen pages, but I need one more, just to, I feel, to sort of weigh that down. But those are my thoughts as I rush in screeching at the last minute.
It's good to hear your thoughts and all of our thoughts. And Jewel, did you have any? What were your opinions about the ending for the threat side?
I already shared my opinions.
Specifically for the ending?
Yes.
Oh.
Like I was saying, I thought it was interesting how Gray's story ended there and Defenders continued. I thought that was there were a lot of interesting parallels between the two.
Yeah, I sort of liked it also. Oh, that was some echo. So I like the ending also, where she just becomes the Reaper, and it being the threat side, her just like leaving without any repercussions sort of makes sense. It's like she won. She did terrible things, ruined the city, and just ends up getting this sweet new gig as a Reaper. That's the threat.
I want to know what that manifests into. Is she just a carbon copy of Hunter, or is her personality and just by measure of being an individual change the makeup of what a Reaper is? Like her whole outfit. Let's just talk how fantastic that outfit was. But like, what does that mean for her? What is she going to do? Like, at least Hunter had some, despite being neutral when it came to Gray, at least from what Crow has shown in previous comics with the character, they had a conscience. They had some semblance of morality, at least when Gray wasn't concerned. But Gray doesn't have that. So how does she manifest as a Reaper? And does that mean just more problems for the city? Will she even stay in the city?
that's gonna be interesting. I hope people like, regardless of whichever side wins, I really hope Gray just stays as the Reaper of Void. Such a fucking cool concept.
Like the new Estrella.
Yeah, or like, and like, at least with like, since I have a character who's what by their definition just fate undead, I just like see her just like fucking with like Juniper, who's undead, and just like messing with her mentally.
So I just want to point out for people who don't know, Estrella is Estrella de Muerte, and it's an older Voider character who established themselves as Void's god of death.
Like from the before time.
Yeah.
Was she also a threat at some point?
No.
I think she was a
Okay.
defender, wasn't she?
She was a defender at one point.
Mm-hmm. I know my Void history.
I don't. I'm baby.
But you're a new, fresh perspective, and we appreciate that. I know, I don't think Estrella was ever a threat, but I do distinctly remember her as a defender. But I like the fact that, at least for this community and the comics that are being made, so many things, including Arma being a huge tournament, really turn things on its head. And I think it's kind of high time we had an update to the god of death when it comes to Void.
Yeah, and just the general after effects of Hellscape either way is going to be super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see how people use that in their future stuff.
Well, seeing as this is being recorded, I want to sort of audibly repeat what Shanna said. She says, "We did not explain this well, but we should have. Gray got his job because for all the times Hunter healed with his magic, I think she meant her with his magic golden blood, she had a F-ton of Reaper blood on her. So sort of like an infusion."
I'm just going to read her next lines. Her. Fuck. Yes.
It's like Reaper dialysis. I getcha. I really think that would have definitely added a lot of great context of like, what are the consequences or the benefits of that Reaper blood? I don't think it came across, at least on my first 10 reads. I have read this a lot.
Good. Both sides are so good. That's why we read them a bunch. They're both really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is why you listen to the Junkcast. You can get this insider info.
Exactly.
Also, just disclaimer, Arma is really hard, and we appreciate the threats and the defenders for all of their 6 weeks of effort. I know this is like, I'm sure that you guys covered this in the interview, but I don't think that, I hope you guys appreciate how hard this is, and just the quality of work on both sides that were pretty dang complete, which I think it's kind of a first when it comes to Armageddon. I don't want to like disparage the other ones, but I think that Armageddon is so hard that, especially the ones back in the day, were varying levels of like, oh, we couldn't get to that last page, or oh, we missed coloring on this page. It's hard to do something complete.
Yeah, there are some stories that don't exactly end. Like on defender side, there are some stories that don't end on the threat side. So I think in terms of Armageddon's, this is definitely one of the standout, like, most successful ones. in
Yeah,
that,
it's the most polished on both sides. It's really good.
yeah, every side got to tell their story, which was amazing, and everybody told everybody's story, basically.
Yeah. Also, I think Jade might have mentioned it. I think somewhere. But like apparently this is like the third longest in terms of pages for both the threats and defender side. In terms of page count.
You magically managed to hit the number 3 spot, both of you.
Crow says, yo. Yeah, definitely like applause all around for the both of you. Your guys' efforts were really great. And I appreciate you listening in on our crits and thoughts and giving us some more context behind your battle. Or should I say your huge tournament?
Which also works great for this format for Junkcast. So we really appreciate you guys being here and being so excited and being able to fill in the dots.
Yeah, thanks for everyone who joined us on Junkcast. And thank you, Kuro, Shen, for doing a little interview. Do we have any final closing thoughts?
Late than never. That's the cozy way.
Once internet like decides to let you on.
Yeah. It was your moment to shine, my ingenue. You did great. I wasn't even here, but I'm sure you did great.
Thanks for the faith in me. I appreciate it.
But yeah, feel free, since you're still hosting, close this out.
Okay, so this was Junkcast Arma. Well, technically it's the third part of Arma because we did the Arma collab as well. This is actual Arma threat side. This is actual Arma
for reals.
Arma for real 2020 threat side Junkcast. Closing out, we will be announcing the Defender, doing the Defender side at some point. That's don't know when, but thank y'all for showing up and Junkcast out, I guess. Whatever.
One side note, because we do have a couple listeners who are not part of the site, who are probably here to support certain threats, who did a huge comic. You can totally find this Armageddon comic, threat side and defender side, at intervoid.com.
Oh yeah, because this is recorded.
Yeah. You're doing great, man. You're doing great.
Peace out.
Peace.
Peace 3. Bye.